Okay. Sextile trine. Those are soft, benefic aspects, the sextile and the trine. Okay. The trine requires the effort of grasping because the opportunity arrives full blown under its own power and is usually accepted by the querent. Again, job interview on a trine, you're going to get it. That's when I try to set up job interviews, that's what I'm looking for, is I want to see a
Yeah.
trine between me and them. You know,
Nice.
sometimes the person declares that he will have nothing more to do with the other, but the chart shows their rulers are trying to each other. I did have one job interview where it showed that. It showed that there was going to be a square and then a trine as you followed the moon. Okay. Now, what happened was the guy who interviewed me didn't like me. Okay. But then the office manager said, look, we've got everybody going on vacation at the same time. You need to hire her. So
Yeah.
begrudgingly, he offered me the job. But that was okay because to me, I looked at the planets going in and I knew that it wasn't going to last. He was going to fire me. I knew going in. He was going to fire me as soon as everybody came back from vacation.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, it was a good check. So, but at least I went in with knowing I wasn't going to be there past the 3 weeks that everybody was on vacation.
Oh, yeah.
So it helps to know sometimes what you're dealing with.
Yes.
You know, when angular, well placed by sign, directed motion, not affected by malefics, the trine and sextile bring the matter to a speedy conclusion. Is singly just okay. So one of the things about if you're doing horary astrology, I have her book there, and I go through every aspect. If I'm doing an important case of some kind, I will go through every single thing that she's got in that book to see if I'm missing something, did I overlook something, and I write everything down. And that's how I come up with a really good, accurate answer.
Yeah.
All right, the first step in reading the horary figure is to make sure that it is acceptable. Okay, we went through this on another class, is you got to make sure the chart's readable, which
Yes.
means the rising needs to be more than 3 degrees, but less than 27 degrees, first of all. Okay. Um, shouldn't have a void moon. When the moon is conjunct the sun, a new moon, and the ruler of the querent is below the horizon. Now, the horizon, as she calls it, a lot of older astrologers do this too. They look at above or below the horizon, which is the first and seventh house angles. Okay. So above the horizon is above the angle of the rising. That's considered the horizon. Okay. And if it's below, that's like the first house, the fourth house, that's below the horizon. Where it's useful is, let's say I want to do something that gets a lot of press or gets a lot of attention. Okay. I'm going to want to make sure the sun and the moon are above the horizon. That brings a lot of light or a lot of attention to something. If
Yeah.
I want it to fall flat, nobody notices it, nobody shows up, that's going to be below the horizon. Okay. Let's see. Between the rule, now that's interesting. If the moon is conjunct the sun and the rule of the querent is below the horizon, between the middle of the sixth house and the middle of the first, they're both in the dark. The question is also obscure and some part of it needs to be cleared up before reading the chart. Interesting. She gives a chart about an illness and diagnosis, which reminds me, yeah, a woman sent me something about her baby having seizures and she wants to know what caused it. I told her I'd look at it. So these are just things to keep in mind. If Saturn rules or is in the seventh house, many astrologers demur about reading the chart at all, which is true. If you automatically see Saturn in the seventh house of a horary, I just look at it as I'm not supposed to read it. Okay. Um, does it mean always? Like a lot of times people will say, well, that's the only time I've got, or No, I mean, there just may be something where they push on you about that's the only chart they've got.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can take a little bit deeper of a look because Saturn the seventh also just represents the astrologer. And I had that come up when I was limping really bad. I would get a lot of charts where Saturn was in the seventh, and it just showed that the astrologer was limping bad. So it just, kind of represented me, so it was okay. Let's see, there'll always be something to correct or revise in the mathematics. That's true. When you're looking at Saturn, I just did this last week. A woman put up a chart for that missing reporter, I remember. And Saturn was in the seventh, and I said, no, that's wrong. Give me another time. She went back and she looked and she goes, oh, I gave you the wrong time.
Nah.
She gave me the right time. So a lot of times Saturn just means you got the wrong time. Look again. You know,
Oh.
there's always something. And that's the one, I remember that's the one where I said it looks like she's been cremated and I don't think they'll find the body,
Oh.
which only time will tell on that one.
Yeah.
There'll always be something to correct or revise in the mathematics. Let's see. The moon's final aspect here was overlooked and omitted. She's talking about another chart. Okay, Saturn in the first house damages the question. And if retrograde, it destroys the question. That's interesting. Any of the malefics in the first quadrant, which is the first, second, third, shows trouble coming up and a no answer, which may be overcome if the chart's strong enough. That's interesting. So when you're looking for quick answers, just taking a glance at something, yeah, if Saturn's in the first, probably not a good chart. And if any of the malefics are in the first, second, or third, then if it's a yes or no, then you can kind of say it's a no, you know? Let's see. Translations of light. Okay, this is interesting to me. When two signifiers are separating from an aspect and they're out of contact, but only a third planet intervenes and can reunite them, all right? It's applying. I remember this translation of light showed up with that missing cat chart I was telling you about because me and the cat were literally not connecting in the chart, all right? But there was that third person. And so that's when I told myself, somebody's going to bring me the cat. That's how I knew was the translation of light. And that's how I knew the ad would work. And I also knew running around looking for this cat wasn't going to work because the only thing that connected me and the cat was this third person. And I remember at that time it was a Saturn Neptune. And then when I looked at the guy, I went, yep, older alcoholic, you know?
Oh.
So, I mean, but there are times when, yeah, that's useful to know. I knew that looking for this person was the only way I was going to find my cat, you know? All right, collection of light. When the two signifiers have not been in aspect and are therefore like strangers, but each applies to the same third planet that is slower than either of them, and where the degree is later than theirs, that third planet or third person to whom they both may turn. Someone is collecting light and represents them both. Cases like that, for instance, may come up in court cases because you got two people that are not agreeing with each other.
Yeah.
All right. But you may see that there is a third planet, which most of the time I've seen court cases has been Jupiter. When I've seen Jupiter connect the two parties, but nothing else connect them, I kind of know that this is the only way to resolve this matter is going to be in court. So that can be an answer
Yeah.
because if you're saying or if the police are the ones to solve the question, like the person that's missing is not going to come home on their own. But if
Oh.
a third planet is connecting them, then the police may find them. So when you've got cases of what they call collection of light, it's important to know that it's going to be a third party or a third person that perfects or brings this case together, Let us say that one person wants to buy property and the other wants to sell, but neither knows the other. So they both turn to a real estate agent. Okay, that can be an answer in itself. If you're looking at something like that and you see that there has to be a third party, then they need to bring in a realtor to help them, you know?
Oh,
Then we look for the third planet that can both apply to them, that there is a third person or agent that they can both turn to. If there's no second signifier, there is no seller or buyer to deal with, therefore no third signifier to turn to. So it just depends on each chart you're doing. When each of the two planets and aspects moves toward the other, one being direct and the other retrograde, they are mutually agreeing to meet and perfect the matter asked about. I remember, yeah, okay, what I mean by that is that normally Mercury, for example, normally moves faster than Venus. Okay.
yeah,
So if you're looking at, say, Mercury is the signifier of one person and Venus is the signifier of the other, and they're moving together generally both forward, they're not going to meet because Mercury's always going to be faster than Venus. And Mercury is separating from Venus because it's going faster than Venus. So it's pulling away from Venus. Venus, on the other hand, is applying to Mercury. So they, no, I got that wrong. Okay, Mercury, no, because Mercury's moving faster. Mercury would be separating from Venus. Yeah, I'm right. Okay, and then Venus would be applying to Mercury, but it's always going to be behind because naturally it moves slower, right?
yeah,
Okay, sometimes there is some other planet that gets in between them. Okay, or let's say, okay, good example, we got Mercury going retrograde right now. Okay, so if you're looking at, say, somebody left you, or your pet's missing, or a purse is missing. Let's say, you're whatever you're looking at. Let's take that as an example that Mercury is the signifier, and normally Mercury would move faster than Venus, meaning away from you. Okay, but let's say Mercury is now retrograde. So it's going to back up and it will connect to Venus. It's going to, Venus is going to catch up to it, in other words.
yeah.
So in those cases, because of Mercury retrograde, it will. Now, a rule of thumb with Mercury retrograde, by the way, and I have not seen an exception to this yet. In all the years I've done this, I've not seen it different, is that when something goes missing during a Mercury retrograde, you will find it. If a person goes missing, if a pet goes missing, you lose your wallet, you will find it as long as it goes missing during the retrograde.
Oh,
And believe me, I have saved myself so much time when people say to me, oh, my cat's missing or my dog's missing. Am I going to get it back? Mercury retrograde? Yeah, you'll get it back. I mean, it just happens. Now, if they want more details, I'll go into it. But you just know that they will, it comes back. But Mercury has to be going retrograde during the time something's missing. If it went missing before Mercury retrograde, no. Okay. Now, sometimes I have seen things go missing under Mercury retrograde that don't come back until Mercury goes retrograde again. It's like it goes back and it unearths something. And I've seen that where they've dug up something and it's been under the Mercury retrograde. It came back to light then. To me, one retrograde that sticks is I remember Trump, that election that he lost was right on a Mercury retrograde. And that stumped me for a bit because I'm going, okay, the Mercury retrograde tells me that it's going to look like he's going to win. Because here's what Mercury retrograde does is it promises something, but then it doesn't deliver. So I went, it's going to look like he's going to win, but he's not because of the Mercury retrograde. However, the Mercury retrograde is he's going to do it again. So I remember that election. It looked like he was going to win, then he didn't. And then, of course, there was all that upheaval. But I said to myself, don't worry, he's going to run again and win. And that's exactly what happened. And the
Oh, yeah.
only way I knew that was just that simple Mercury retrograde.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I just knew he was going to run again the next time and win. And he did. So, and that's why, oh, believe it or not, I've learned that casinos know astrology, horse tracks know astrology, because back when I used to study this stuff, like gambling and horse races and boxing matches, things like that, they used to tell you when things were going to start. And I could run the chart. And we used to do that. Peter and I used to go down to the track and we, look at the races and try to identify what horse is going to win. And they used to tell you when the horse, and if you look back at horse racing, they used to only have like one dominant color on their jerseys, like green or red, and we could tell, oh, the green one's going to win, or oh, the red one's going to win. Well,
Oh,
then we started noticing that now they mix up the colors and they don't tell you the exact time of the race starting. Same thing with casinos. Casinos now will conceal when they actually really open. In the old days, and this, I swear to God, I have to find this article. There was an article where all the astrologers knew this one casino was going to have a big payoff at this one time. And they all
yeah.
hit the casino and they lost so much money that day that's when all the casinos started um, doing what they call soft launches to throw people off as to when they actually open because they got ding bad because all the astrologers knew that that casino was going to pay off big that day. You know,
Yeah.
it's funny. Now you'll see them. The last casino I saw open, they said, oh, it's going to open at this time. And I remember watching it and they didn't open till 8 hours after they said they were going to open. So they know that astrologers are going to look at that and go, oh, I'm going to have a big win on that day. So, this is how they get by it.
Oh.
I'm bringing that up because there's another astrologer I know that he does gambling astrology.
Oh.
And Doris Stone has this book. I don't know if you've seen it. Doris Stone has this book about money and astrology. Boy, is that a great book because she actually tells you like how you get your money, whether you get your money by work or by an insurance policy or an inheritance or gambling, you know,
Oh.
and I actually have the chart of somebody who can win big from gambling, you know, and then
Wow.
believe it or not, they have this thing where if your ring finger is longer in proportion, than it should be. I don't know how to
Yeah.
explain this. If your ring finger is longer than it should be, that's also a sign is a Jupiter finger. Makes you they also found that gamblers have this, by the way.
Oh.
They all tend to have that really long ring finger. And then um, I have some planets moving up in my personal chart that looks like I've got that windfall coming. Remember I said it looks like I've got a windfall coming?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I dug up this astrologer. His name's Bill. And I said, look at this. I said, am I wrong? Or does it look like I could have a big win coming? And he goes, no. He says, you're right. He
Wow.
said, trying to Pluto. I'm like, okay. So I set an appointment with him to go over because he makes his living by gambling and astrology.
Oh.
I've done it and it is tricky. There is a way to calculate when you will have like winning planets. The problem is that window of time is 2 minutes, literally 2 minutes.
Oh.
And you have to actually make sure that your chart is absolutely right on the money. You've got to know. And how I rectified my chart was, I remember I sat in a casino and I don't know if they still have them, but they used to have penny machines. And I sat there and I kept feeding pennies into the machine and clocking it. And I noticed that my chart was 2 minutes off. So, I added 2 minutes to it and then got it good. And then I got my times. But when that chart is only 2 minutes long, you got to stop or you'll lose it back.
Oh, yeah.
I tried playing with it and I'd get up 10 grand, 20 grand, things like that. But then if I stuck too long, I start losing it down. So that's like the trick is you got to do that 2 minutes and then leave, you know?
Yeah.
But it is possible to know like, but you have to have the chart for gambling, which Doris Stone talks about. You have it. I have it. We've got that Leo rising. I mean, the Scorpio rising with the Leo midhaven.
Yes.
Now, it's a little more complicated. She says that your rulers have to line up and it's a little bit more complex, but she did find patterns with people who win like the lottery. I remember Dorothy Allison, that psychic that I used to study with. She won the lottery 3 times, big
Oh,
wins. She was
wow.
able to retire off. That's how she could do all those missing people murder cases on her own, is she won all that money in the lottery.
Oh,
But she has a chart for it. And what's funny to me is years ago, I'm looking at my daughter's chart with the Doris Stone book, and her chart was, because I'm going, she's not working a job. How the hell is she going to make money? Well, her chart showed inheritance. So when her father died, we got the insurance settlement and she's got the house. And then I do think that she's going to get more once I die. But her chart shows inheritance, you know? So I think it's helpful to know that. I mean, if people are like banging their head up against the wall at a job, but that's not where your money comes from, I think it's important to know where it comes from,
yeah.
So I do recommend her book, I think it's Money in Astrology, because I mean, I can oversimplify it, but, if you look at, say, I'm pretty sure my daughter's eighth house is Leo with the sun. If I'm not mistaken, I think she's got the sun in the second. So that shows that she'll get money from the inheritance, you know?
Yeah.
And the angles of somebody who wins the lottery, there's a lot where they have the Leo midhaven. And of course, they get the fame or the notoriety around the gaming, you know? But then you got, if their money's in the sixth house, that's jobs. If it's the 11th house, it's their own company. So I think it is important to know kind of where your money comes from. And that way you know where to put your energy, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, mutual application. When each of the two planets and aspects moves toward the other, they're agreeing to meet and perfect the matter. Yeah, I mean, let's say normally Mercury does move faster than Venus, but if it's retrograde and it goes back to Venus, then that's what it's talking about. It's applying to Venus and it will perfect the minute that it hits Venus. Um, if you're trying to look at something where you connect to something, that's important to know because you can look to see when is that perfection going to happen, and that will tell you when. Okay. Um, Both Jupiter and Neptune rule foreign affairs. True. Mutual application by square will not be easy. Yeah, that's the thing about squares. It always says there's a struggle of some kind. You have to fight for it. It doesn't come naturally, but you will prevail with a square. It's worth fighting for. It's only the oppositions that it's just not going to happen.
Ah.
You know, Moon general indications. Okay, how long have we been? Again, before we get into the moon, I think that's going to be a whole lesson in itself. How long have we been going?
Um, it is 7:30, so about 2 hours.
Okay, we've got enough for today then, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, what I'll do is see, because remember I told you that there's a way where you can tell everything by the moon. You don't even have to
Yes.
know the chart. You don't have to know the time. The old astrologers, who obviously didn't have computers and job charts or whatever, they'd always go by the moon to answer anything. They'd go by the moon. And it looks like I've got that in the chapter here where she goes down all the things that you look at. Um, and I'm going to have to I'll have to dig up some past charts that also show you how you can tell the answer just by the moon. I'll do that during next week because there's times when you really don't know the chart or the time, or you don't have the time, but you do know where the moon's at. And that can give you a quick answer when you need it. So it's
Oh,
it's a good thing to know the
yeah.
rules about the moon. Like basic rules about the moon, for example, is if the moon is void, nothing's going to come of it. Something's going to fall apart, that kind of thing. Um, and that's, let's say that I meet someone and it looks promising romantically, but I've met them under a void moon. Nothing's going to come of it. So I
Ah,
just know it's going to fall apart. If somebody makes me a job offer on a void moon, not going to happen. I mean, so these are kind of important things to know with the moon just on that. You know, again, I place my ads for business when there's a trine between the first house and the seventh house. That brings me together with my client. You know,
ah,
I always try to look for a trine, maybe a sextile. And then I of course look to see if there's when I've got time, I'll look to see that there's a second house connection because that tells me I'm going to get cash off this person. So I always try to run my ads with some kind of connection between the first, the seventh, and the second, you know,
yeah.
or my money times. You, for example, wherever your Jupiter or Sun is would be good money times. So I also try to always run ads when the moon's in Leo or Sagittarius because that's my Sun and Jupiter.
Oh,
And somebody always comes at me with some big check about something. Example, moon just went into Leo, right? I got
yes.
a text because I also do my paralegal work. I got a text this morning from a client that's sending me $1,000 because I told them that for the kind of work they need done on this case, they need they need like 3 motions. I said, so for 3 motions, I'm going to need $1,000. This person said, let me get the money. Well, this morning they called me up and said, I'm sending you the money. Moon's in
Wow.
Leo. I always get a check when Moon's in Leo.
Wow.
Just, yeah. So you start to learn. And believe it or not, it helps to know that when you got bills to pay. Because I already know, like, okay, this is when I'm going to get money. So I set my bills up to be when that moon hits my money point. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because I
And is
just
that
know,
because of your second house?
yeah. Well, my second house is Sagittarius. So when the moon's in Sagittarius, I get money. And
Oh,
then,
okay. Mine
um,
too.
yeah. And then my 10th house is Leo.
Yeah, mine
So I
too.
also get, it seems to be Leo and Sag. That's when I always get big checks. Now, what I mean by that is something I'm not expecting. Your
Okay.
paychecks are always going to come every week or 2 weeks. I'm not talking about paychecks. I'm
Yeah.
talking about extra money, like a tax return or a gift or something, something like that. Or something, when you're self-employed like me, that means a big job's going to come through.
Oh, nice.
I'm getting ready to start offering classes. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm not really going to launch anything while Mercury's retrograde.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to kind of, so and you know what? I got things to do. I need to set up the site. I need to set up a shopping cart. I need to, put some things together. So now this I'm saying doesn't mean you don't do anything. You prepare yourself. So I'm going to do all the preparation for offering the classes, until Mercury goes direct. Then when it
Uh,
goes direct, then I'm going to look at that. I'm going to look at a time where my first house, my seventh house, and my second house are lined up in some benefic way. That tells me that when I launch this, I'm going to get a return on it.
oh,
And so that's going to be when I, run ads for the website or post the website, that kind of thing.
yeah.
And it does work. Every time I've placed an ad or started a campaign that way, I've always made really good money, you know? But yeah, if the moon's not aspecting or the signifiers aren't aspecting, that's going to be when ploomp, nothing happens.
Yeah.
So you can kind of, if you're self-employed, it's important to know this. And when I go through the moon next session, I'm going to talk about that because when you're self-employed, you need to know when to time meetings, when to time sales calls, when to, so
Yes.
you're going to get a result. And in fact, I'm starting next week with that. I'm going to start doing like a daily forecast.
Oh,
And for
nice.
all the people that are self-employed, you guys are going to need to know when
Yeah.
those good times are, when to place your ads, when to set your appointment. So I'm going to, and it shifts every 2 hours. So I'm going to try to start doing a forecast, because
Yeah,
I'm going to do
starts
it late in the
placing ads
day.
and not getting any sales out of it.
Yeah, you got to know
Ugh.
when to place the ads. Now, this is something, it doesn't matter what your chart says. If the event chart, which is the time that you place the ad, if it says success, it doesn't matter what your natal chart says. You're going to get a return on it. Now, is it affected by the natal? Yeah, you may not get a big return if, say, you're having bad money planets, but you will get some return, you know?
Yeah.
So a lot of times it's quicker and easier to just do the horary than to go digging into the natal. Like when I place my ads, I really don't look too much to my natal chart. I look at the chart of the time that I place my ad or start my campaign.
Ah,
That tells me and that applies to anybody. When I'm looking at the planets for something, anybody in that time zone is going to apply to them. But that's why I'm going to start to forecast tomorrow, actually, because tomorrow's Monday. Yeah, I'm going to start recording a forecast and put it up every day. So
nice.
people can actually start following along with me and see how this works, you know?
Yeah,
All right. So
I love that idea.
next week we'll start doing moon, all the things you need to know about the moon. Okay?
Okay, great.
All right. Did you have any questions for this week or are we good?
Um, no, we're good. I learned a lot.
Well, that's why we record it. You can
I'm
play
so
it
glad
back.
it's recorded.
Yes. I'm with you because I know me when I learn, I got to replay the tape a few times,
Yeah. I'm like, now what did she say about this? Yeah.
Well, that's why I keep my books. And that's why, if I give you a PDF, print it out, put it in a notebook because when I'm doing an important chart, like let's say I am working on a missing person case, that's important. I will go through every single detail of that chart, so that I'm really, really confident in whatever answer I get. I'll look at the degree, the sign, the debt. I mean, I will look at every single thing and I'll spend time with it, but I will get the right answer. And that's the point of this, is to get right answers.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I will see you again next Sunday, right?
Yes, for sure.
Thanks for calling me and,
Yeah.
and getting this done. Okay.
Yes, I'm enjoying it thoroughly.
All right. I'll talk to you next week.
Okay, bye.
Bye.